are talking short-term rentals and serviced accommodation now, because we're delighted to welcome a new sponsor to the short-term rentals tribe, and it is Under the Doormat and sister company Hospiria. And I am delighted to be joined by somebody who I consider to be short-term rentals royalty, and that is company founder and CEO Merilee Karr. Merilee, it's lovely to catch up with you again, because we first met a few years back at an industry event, and I was so impressed with your knowledge of this sector. And you've been in it, well, you know, right back when you started Under the Doormat in 2014. So could you tell us a little bit about your two companies and how they've grown over the years and what they offer?
No, absolutely. I mean, look, it's a pleasure to be working with you. For me, short-term rentals is something that I've been passionate about since I set up Under the Doormat back in 2014. And for me, it's always been about professionalizing the way short-term rentals are done. And obviously, we've done that with Under the Doormat since 2014. And most recently, we launched our partnership with Cadogan Estates and our 3 Sloane Gardens boutique apart hotel in Sloane Square. And as we learned how short-term rentals worked, and as we built our own technology ecosystem, what we also understood is that there are so many independent operators, you know, small and larger scale entrepreneurs who are out there who want to participate in the sector, and in many cases don't have the technology and in some cases even the expertise to make the most of that opportunity. And that's why last year we launched Hospiria, which is our tech arm, so that any smaller medium-sized operator can access short-term rentals by literally listing their properties and all the distribution across an exclusive mix of distribution channels, including the likes of Marriott Homes and Villas, Expedia, and lots that actually smaller operators can't directly get access to themselves. But it also provides all of the operational technology that you need, the field management systems, pricing, everything to basically get you started. Or if you're an operator who's been struggling with like tech overload and lots of different systems and not knowing how to bring it all together, this is just a really simple way to access short-term rentals, so that people who are managing properties, hosting, can actually do what they're good at, which is have great relationships with the owners and deliver a wonderful experience for the guests.
Well, I have to say, Merilee, Hospiria is a very, very impressive bit of software. And as you said, it's an aggregator and a dashboard for managing all aspects of your short-term rental business. And that's, you know, people can use that from anywhere in the UK, anywhere in the world. Under the Doormat, if we could just quickly focus on that side of things as well. You're based in London, and you offer a fully managed short-term rental service, so that you can really take care of everything for the owner, can't you?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, again, coming back to that ethos of professionalism, what we want to do is for an owner who wants to enter the short-term rentals market and be completely hands-off. We blueprint the home, so we understand how everything works. We have everything well documented. We insure the property. We distribute it, we manage all the aspects of the guest, and we enable that owner to earn that income in a completely hassle-free and effortless way. So, you know, that's always been the ethos of Under the Doormat. And in addition to doing that for individual owners, we're now doing that for larger and larger property companies. So portfolio owners in the build-to-rent sector, and for the likes of the great estates. And it's great to see that actually the broader property world is really opening up their mind to the fact that this isn't just a cowboy industry of, you know, kind of posting things up and problems and parties, but actually a really professional sector that is emerging and helping property owners over a mix of all the different types of long lets, short lets, etc., to optimize the yield on the portfolio and the assets that they own.
Well, I have to say, Merilee, that I regard you as an absolute leading light in the sector in terms of all your efforts to professionalize it. And that leads us nicely to talk about what's happened to the sector during the COVID-19 lockdowns, because obviously, it's been pretty much shut down for about a year. And that's had a huge impact on short-term rental owners. How have you kind of fared during this period and helped, keep everybody going?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a really tough year for everyone. I feel really fortunate because in many ways, we were able to work with our owners to have more sort of mid and long lets over the period. But actually, more importantly, is that for the first time ever, the sector came together and more than 30 operators from around the country, including some of the biggest operators like Sykes and One Fine Stay. We all came together to do NHS homes. So in the very first lockdown, actually, all of us were offering accommodation for free to NHS workers. And in total, Under the Doormat delivered just over £1 million worth of free stays, and all the companies combined delivered over the £20 million worth of free stays, which is an impressive thing in its own right, especially because it was just genuinely a charitable exercise by some of the best companies in the sector. But with every good deed actually comes opportunities that we'd never anticipated. And so in working with government and them hearing what was going on, for the first time, they started to get their head around the fact that this isn't just a peer-to-peer sector, that there are professional operators, and actually that if our sector could come together under one umbrella, that government would be willing to purchase stays in short-term rentals, which is something that's never happened before. And so what we did was we built what's called Trusted Stays. So it's an industry platform backed by the Short-Term Accommodation Association, where any professional operator who is accredited by Quality in Tourism or an equivalent is able to list their properties and access government and corporate bookings, an area which our sector has always struggled to do in any consistent way. And because we've now won the first ever government RFP back in February, it is also opening up the doors to the global distribution system that has been a walled garden for hotels in the past. And so, again, I think it's an opportunity coming out in the recovery for our sector to have much more counter-cyclical bookings, when the leisure market is a bit slower. And in certain geographies, actually, this could even be a more important segment of the market in the longer term. Mm. So for me, it's amazing when you think, okay, a year ago, none of this existed. And actually coming out of COVID, we've now got something completely new that's helping the sector break into new areas that we were never able to break into before. And I don't think that we would be there actually if it weren't for COVID. So I think that's really, really exciting.
It really is. It's so, such a positive thing to come out of such, challenging and difficult circumstances. And I guess that leads nicely on to the fact that restrictions are lifting now. The industry is starting to open up again. We can start welcoming guests back into our properties. How do you see the next couple of years for the short-term sector, Merilee? Because clearly one of the things that may impact it is the lack of overseas guests. But I think that could be compensated by a huge uprising in guests within the UK.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. We, as an industry, did some work with STR, which is a benchmarking company for the traditional hospitality sector. And what was fascinating was that back in October, when the restrictions eased last year, what we actually saw was that short-term rentals were recovering quicker than other segments of accommodation. So I think there's an appetite for consumers to stay in independent and self-contained accommodation, which of course short-term rentals offers. So that comfort of a home and the space that an individual home provides is something that I think is very timely in a COVID world. So I think that's a big opportunity. And if we look over at North America, where there are already for a longer period fewer restrictions, we actually see a boom in the short-term rental and holiday homes market. And I would expect to see that replicated, not just here in the UK, but internationally. Now, you talked about the difference between staycations and international travelers. I think what we will see is more staycations, certainly in 2021. But I think also once people have experienced it and understand the ease, I think we'll see that as a trend that continues. So I think that's positive. But I also think with the government introducing the traffic light system and all these kinds of things, we will also see international travel returning. I think one of the things that we do need to be mindful of is I think it will take a little while for the ADRs, or the kind of daily rates, certainly in city locations, to return to what we might have seen pre-COVID. I think overall, one of the things that for me is very important is recognizing the balance between what our sector does, which is really help to fill void periods, properties that would be second homes, and holiday homes when the owner's not using it, versus landlords that are looking to do a kind of permanent short-term rental business. And I think what the crisis has taught us is that is a risky thing to do, because where an AST will deliver you a guaranteed rent through the year, short-term rentals don't do that. And I think that's something for landlords in particular to consider is, what is that mix? How can they use these two things to kind of work in collaboration? But I very much don't see a return to individual landlords and cities kind of, doing short-term rentals necessarily in the same permanent basis that you might have seen pre-COVID.
Oh, well, that's very interesting to hear your view on that. I mean, the sector, it has developed rapidly over the last few years. You and I met at the first ever short-term accommodation show, which was the whole industry coming together for the first time, and there was such a buzz there, and so many different companies providing services and innovation, which is obviously all coming into the Hospiria ecosystem. I think the accommodation, it has to be of a very high standard. I think that's what the market expects. So I was interviewing another a lady about holiday lets earlier, and she said that it's like being a boutique hotel owner. You have to think in that kind of mindset. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it is very much hospitality. People are not just looking for a cheap place to stay. They're actually looking for a high quality hospitality experience. And what they like about it is the authenticity that we can provide in our sector. These are real homes. These are high quality properties, but often people are looking for something a bit nicer than where they live every day. When they go on holiday, they're expecting something really high standard. And I think the operators and the providers who are able to deliver on those standards are the ones that are going to succeed. And you see that also even in the hotel industry. It's like the budget hotels, all those types of things are ones that are often struggling. I think our sector is pushing that part of the industry to evolve and innovate and to offer a better product. And I think, consumers at all budget points are still looking for good quality. That doesn't mean it has to be expensive. They're also happy with glamping or, small spaces and various different innovations. But I think across the board, quality is something that needs to be there to be successful in the sector.
Totally 100% agree. And also I think another thing is cleanliness, and that's obviously quite a big issue following COVID. And you mentioned that one of the attractions of this type of accommodation is it's almost like a self-contained isolation pod. You don't even have to be greeted if you don't want to. Many of these places have digital keys to access or lock boxes, so it does give people that comfort. But also you on Under the Doormat, I noticed that you'd had kind of cleaning protocols upgraded, so you're setting standards for cleanliness within this type of accommodation, aren't you?
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, that's something that we've always had a focus on. And I think COVID's just brought it more into the consumer's mind. So we're able to highlight some of the things that we've always been doing. And that's provided a lot of reassurance to potential guests who are looking to book and come and stay with us. And I think for us, it's also been important because we've really fed into the industry guidelines. So we work together with, the Short-Term Accommodation Association, other associations across the UK and internationally, to make sure that anyone who's operating in the sector is aware of what the right cleaning standards are. And those have all been signed off by government and are part of accreditation with Quality in Tourism, also feed into the Visit Britain Good to Go scheme, so that you can go and check out what it is that you need to do and make sure that you're certifying that those things are being done.
Because I think one of the biggest challenges for a holiday let or STA owner is maintaining cleanliness and keeping cleaners on board. If your cleaner leaves, it can cause a big problem. But I think one of the big things about using the services of Under the Doormat or the services within the Hospiria kind of ecosystem is that you will get consistency of standards. So you've set standards within your businesses, and your cleaners and your suppliers will be adhering to the standards that you've set.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important. And, whether it's owners who work with us and we take care of everything in Under the Doormat, or whether it's Hospiria partners where we're able to provide all the guidance that they need to make sure they're meeting those standards when they operate in the sector. We really want to just help everyone to raise that bar, because what we also know from our own experience is that when the bar is raised high, actually it is a much more pleasant business to run, because you get the right customers and the customers are happy, and you don't feel like you're just running around from pillar to post dealing with issues. And so I think that whole philosophy of being proactive, doing things right from the outset, really helps this to be a fantastically fun industry to be a part of.
Well, I think that's a good top tip. And I was just wondering if you had a couple of others for us, of somebody that was thinking of starting a short-term accommodation business. What would you say, give them, to guide them?
Look, I think first thing is think about how you want to structure it and get the right technology to support yourself. Because a lot of people think, oh, I'll just post a bunch of properties on Airbnb. And before they know it, actually what they find is, they're tied only to one platform. They find then if they want to go multi-platform, that it gets completely complex of how do you manage all the bookings and reservations. And then once you've got several properties and all these reservations coming in, you need a schedule to manage it all. You need everything going into one system. You need that your owners can see into it, so they're not calling you every 5 minutes asking you questions. And so I think ultimately solutions like Hospiria just help people entering this market to kind of plug in and focus on the owners they're bringing in, delivering that hospitality, but knowing that they can do it in a simple way. Because I think what most people think when they come into this business is they think, oh, it's going to be really easy. And I think if you talk to anyone who's been in this sector for a little while, they'll say, it is far more complex than what you think, and you only realize that once you get part way in. And I think many people find themselves being like a duck floating over water, paddling so hard underneath. And what I want to help people do is to make that easier, so that they can be really successful and have profitable businesses in short-term rentals. Because I really believe that the best thing about our sector is the entrepreneurs that are in it, the small businesses, family-run operations. And what I don't want to happen is that they all find it too hard, that they just sell up and leave the industry. I really want us to keep that the heart of the industry, because that's what makes our industry different from hotels and all these other sectors that become anonymous. And so I hope that things like Hospiria will help make that easier, so that that people can come in and have thriving, successful businesses. And in particular, given the years ahead where I can see the sector growing again and thriving, I think there's no better time to think about having a short-term or holiday rental business than in the years ahead.
No, I totally agree. I think we're just entering a golden era of short-term lettings, and we heard from the papers today that Barclays Bank say that we're going to go into the most busy and most thriving economic period since the end of the Second World War, and there's a huge amount of pent up money that's going to come out and be spent, and people are going to be looking to enjoy themselves because they've been isolated for the past year. So I do agree with you, Merilee. I think there's a lot of opportunities going ahead, and I think the services that you offer are particularly good for people that are going to want to scale up their business. If you've just got one property and you live next door to it, you can probably manage it on your own. But if you're working remotely or you want to scale up, then you definitely need this infrastructure to make it viable. I guess as we close this out, we've got some breaking news, haven't we, about an event that's going to be happening in the autumn.
Yeah, it's really exciting. The Short-Term Accommodation Association, together with the European Holiday Homes Association and the Vacation Rental Management Association in North America, have all come together to host a European conference. It will be in London on the 14th of September at Tobacco Dock. And the details will be available on the website. So you can go to the Short-Term Accommodation Association website and look for the Short Stay Summit, which will be on the 14th of September.
Short Stay Summit, 14th of September, and we hope to be joining you there because we're very interested in this part of the sector. We know a lot of landlords are looking at it, and as you say, I think there's huge opportunities in the year ahead. And we should actually just give a brief mention to the Short-Term Accommodation Association because they're kind of the industry body to bring everybody together, aren't they? And anybody that's in this sector should consider joining.
Absolutely. And look, you can join as an individual host, as a small property manager, or a larger company. And we've got everyone in the association from the likes of Airbnb and Vrbo to some of the major property companies like Sykes, One Pine Stay, and Under the Doormat, as well as a lot of suppliers. So it's also a great way to learn about all the things that can help a short-term rental business to grow. And we welcome members of all sizes and shapes. And it's a great way to know about what's going on in the industry. And be a part of the association to help the industry grow in the future.
Yes, it's very similar to, standard buy-to-let. It's going to be the informed and educated and digital-minded landlord or property owner that's going to really be the success story going forward. I'm sure you'll agree.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, Merilee, it's been so lovely to talk to you and to welcome you to Property Tribes as a sponsor. I'd love to talk some more, and we will do, because part of our collaboration or cooperation is we're going to be working together to create content around this topic and hopefully come to some of your events and so forth. So we'll be seeing you again very soon. But for now, thank you very much for your support of Property Tribes, helping maintain it as a free to use community resource, which is what all of our sponsors do, and we're absolutely delighted to have you on board and very much looking forward to working with Under the Doormat and Hospiria.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to speak to you, and looking forward to working with you.
Likewise. Bye for now.
Bye for now.